Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. Before we jump into the episode today, I just want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the show, and that is Beginning Again Institute. They're a big part of my story. If you or anyone you know is suffering from sex, love, or porn addiction, definitely go check them out. They're doing amazing work. Their information will be in the description of this episode. I've had a bunch of their therapists on, so definitely go check them out. They're doing great work. So really grateful to have them as a sponsor. On today's show, I am joined by Traci, the certified life coach. Now, Traci, you're so much more than a life coach. You're a mother. You're a human being, right? So, I just thank you so much for coming on and welcome to No Lions Here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah. So Traci and I met. She's been coming into the treatment center, and we've been doing kind of a class for the clients on kind of, hey, here's some other aspects of things that you can look at to kind of help your life whenever you get out of treatment.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll be honest, Traci, like, I really enjoy sitting in on those classes.
Thank you.
I'm getting a lot out of them. And that's one of the things that I love about my job. It's like I get to interact in these things as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm still growing. I'm still seeking.
We all are.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that the clients are getting a lot out of it too.
Good. I love it. I love that you're in there. You don't have to be an addict to understand and appreciate these workshops.
100%. I'm a firm believer that, anybody out there can benefit from this.
Absolutely.
So, certified life coach. So how long have you been doing that?
I was doing it probably 13 or 14 years ago, and I kind of fell into it, and I realized I've sort of been doing it. I need to go to school and get truly certified, and because I was doing it, kind of under the wire. I absolutely love it. I was a speaker. I was an author. And I was a speaker, traveled the country, and I spoke, and I had my own radio show in Chicago when I lived there called The Lost and Found. And it was for those that had a faith and kind of left it and came back to it in their own terms. They kind of redefined how faith would work for them. And through that, and speaking to thousands and traveling the country, I realized that I had kind of fallen into this space of life coach, but I really wanted to do it right. So I went back to school. I got certified in it. And I found that I really leaned towards addiction and helping those that were in that genre, and for the families of addicts, which, everyone knows someone, right?
Absolutely.
And that was sort of how I got into it. And actually, interestingly, I had been a lot of red eyes to make it home for kids' sports, or my daughter's in theater, and making it home. And it got to be so much that I was sort of forced to pause when my daughter was in an accident, her freshman year of college. And I reassessed and practiced what I was preaching and decided to simplify and only life coach after that. I quit speaking and I opened up my own practice, and that was about 10 years ago.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So life coaching. So obviously there's a degree for this, a certification.
There's a certification for this. Yes.
Now, in the past, have life coaches kind of got like a bad rap?
Yes, they have. They're now it seems to be sort of the buzzword, but they've gone through sort of a metamorphosis, if you will.
Yeah.
And there are tools, there are applications. It's not really just how are you feeling. It's very different.
Yeah.
It's very different than therapy, actually. And people kind of think of it as the same. A lot of those that are in my practice that I see have been in therapy and feel kind of stuck. Life coaching is drastically different when it comes to therapists. It's really important they go to the past. They talk about the past, the healing of the past. And life coaching is about where are we now? We know the past. How do we apply it and move forward? Life coaching is about applying where we're at, not forgetting what's happened, but now with this information that we've gathered, how do we move forward? And that's the real push for coaching, for those that feel stuck, for those that can't seem to move, or that same narrative in their head. don't forget what's happened, but what have we learned from this? How can we apply it and how can we move forward?
Yeah, I remember when you explained that to the clients in the like the very first group, right? You do a really good job. Like it makes so much sense, like the way that you described that. Because you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, I've been in therapy for years, and there's been times where like I'm really stuck, or like the first 2 years of my recovery, like I was so stuck in the past.
Yes.
Still stuck in the past, holding on to these resentments, and it wasn't conducive to my recovery
Oh,
at all.
absolutely.
It got to the point where I was still so stuck in the past that like, how do you move past that?
Yeah, that's a really difficult piece is a lot of times people will say, why? I want to know why. But once we discover why, how did that help you move forward? It didn't. It left you stuck with, okay, now I know. I'm still here. Oftentimes, I'll tell my clients that's really not the question of why. It's how do I move? Where do I want to be? So the questions I always ask are forward moving. They don't leave you just sitting with an answer. They leave you searching for one. They leave you setting a goal. They leave you moving towards something. And oftentimes, I find that when we move and not running away from something, but when we move with great intentionality, the why comes to us as we're moving. We don't have to sit and focus. I have a client now that she's incredibly interesting, but she started looking back into her past, into traumas. And it's very important to be able to look at those. But she decided after many years to go back. And I said, just be careful not to get stuck there. And remember, because now she started questioning, she was working with a therapist. She started questioning this journey and going back to her traumas and to her past, which she'd already visited. She was already very well aware of. But what it did was left her broken. Look what's happened. Why am I here? And feeling very incapable instead of remembering to champion the little girl that survived it and to look at that little girl that survived it. That little girl is a warrior. And she didn't quite understand the full complexities of what she was going through because she didn't have that capability of understanding. So I just kept saying to her, instead, champion her. And she's passed the baton to you and say, thank you for this. And now I'm going to run with it. And it started to kind of get her moving again.
That's a great point. And you were sharing that, and I just got these memories of myself in my brain of like, I'm a big why person, right? I went to treatment. I went to a trauma-informed treatment center, and we really connected a lot of the dots. I knew that the dots were there, connecting the dots. And then when I got out of treatment and home, I'd bump up against something, right? I always tell people like, hey, it's never really the situation right in front of us that is triggering. It's these deeper wounds that are now getting hit and bumped up against. So my idea of the solution was, let me pick up the shovel off my back and let me start digging down. Once I get to the root ball, I'm going to be able to find a solution. But then when I'm down with the root ball, next thing you know, I'm looking up going, what the fuck? Now I'm in a hole. I don't know how to get out of it. I like to also use the metaphor of it's like trying to race through mud with racing slicks on.
Yeah.
I'm just spinning my tires.
Absolutely.
I'm spinning my tires. So like the why is important. And now how that's kind of changed in my life is like, okay, sure, I'm feeling a certain type of way. There's these things going on. Yeah, I know I've got all this trauma, but like the why will come.
The why will come.
What can I do in this moment? And that is talk about it, pray about it, and know that like I don't got to make a decision today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's that digging down, like you said, it leaves them so stuck. And I'll have clients say, well, can come get me out. And I'll say, I'll throw the ladder down and I'll talk about each rung, but you're climbing it. You're doing the work. I'm not doing this for you. And in order to do it, you have to lean on, like, for example, my client, or for you have to lean on that younger self. And instead of, what you went through, and don't get me wrong, traumas are horrible and they're with you forever because we are who we are environmentally. But we forget also to champion those young ones that got us where we are. A lot of times we can say, thank you for this. Thank you for what you've given me. I've got it from here. I'm going to take care of you now. Instead of, I can't believe what you went through. And it causes us to get stuck again. Instead of, wait, they didn't fight that fight and go what they went through. for you to now sit down and be upset about it. They did it so you could take it and live a better life. And so honor them. Don't ignore it. It's not, let's pretend it didn't happen, because that's chaos too. That is absolute chaos. But to remember to honor him or her, say, wow, look what you've done for me. Look what you've passed off to me. I've got it from here because I have more wisdom. I have more patience. I have more aptitude, more people around me, and more resources. And now I can advocate because of you. And it helps make that shift. So you're safer and you're in a better place when you really start looking. You're going to be okay. You start looking and you weren't prepared for it. And now you're back down with that shovel.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And what I love is that you're bringing in the younger self. I'm a firm believer in like the inner child model. And there's a really good Michelle Chalfant. She does the Adult Chair podcast. And she talks about like that there's three versions of ourselves, right? There's the inner child, the inner adolescent, and then the adult. And I always knew about the inner child, but I was missing that inner adolescent piece. Right? That's where like the ego lives.
Oh.
I believe that that's where my addiction lies. And the way that I try to teach it, and not everybody buys into the inner child model, right? Like you can really kind of get into the weeds with some of that stuff. But I love, because it makes so much sense. Like, that's a part of me. I believe that my addiction is a younger version of myself, just trying to cope. My inner child is hurting. The wounds affect my inner child. My inner child doesn't know what to do with it. My inner adolescent comes in and says, hey, man, come with me. I can help you. Come with me. I'll take us to where I'll get us some help. So like, people talk about, when it comes to addiction, people talk about like almost like this monster green goblin beast in their head, and I got to kill the addiction. My take on that is, actually, I believe that it's a younger part of us. Let's make friends with that. Let's comfort that part of us. I don't want to kill the younger version of myself.
But you want to give them better tools.
100%. Or even just the attunement of like sitting quietly with them and saying, hey, like, I'm here, right? Like, I got us. Like you were saying, like, hey, thank you so much for what you've done. Let me take over.
Got it from here. You're safe.
You're safe.
You're safe now.
Yeah.
And there's another one that I look at, and it's the inner toddler.
Ooh, okay.
The inner toddler is the, if I could quote Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, Veruca Salt, Daddy, I want a new Oompa. It's a famous saying in our house. The inner toddler is the one that just wants it. Daddy, I want it, right? It's the entitled gimme, and we have to listen to that one too, especially in this environment. When I hear a lot of, well, I need to give myself grace. And really what they're doing is they're giving themselves an excuse. And it's their inner toddler kind of lying to them a little bit.
Okay.
So you have to be, I have flags, right, around my metaphoric flags that in my clients, I'll throw a bullshit flag. And I'm like, oh, shoot, that's a foul. I don't believe what you're saying. And I believe that's your inner toddler, right? And then they kind of have to regroup and realize I'm going to call them on it. But the children, the adolescents that got us to where we are, they did what they did to survive. They did what they did the best that they could in the situation that they were in. And the best way for that healing and to move them is to just make them feel safe. They didn't feel safe. They didn't feel safe, so they reacted because they're not big responders. And it's where we are now. The best gift that we can give them is that I got it. I get it. I appreciate it. And now that I'm here and what I've learned, I'm going to do it a little differently. And this is going to be better for us. And then that version, that young fighter moves. And now we have a fighter amongst us, not one that we left behind, but one that we brought with us. Oftentimes traumas leave people really stuck because, let's say it was a divorce, right? It's all subjective what a trauma is to each of us, right? Abuse of some sort could be at age 5, age 8. Well, they get stuck there. And that child gets stuck there. And we have this big space missing, and we fill it oftentimes with alcohol, drugs, sex. We fill that space because we can't survive not being whole. But when we go about kind of with coaching, go back and bring them up and champion them and make them feel safe to move again, now they've joined us. And now we're whole, and we are a force to be reckoned with.
That just, the word that comes to my mind there, like, is empowering, right? Like, let's empower these parts of us.
Yes, our full self.
Our full self, and one of the things that I've really been looking at lately is like, so I use we kind of talked about the toddler, right? The inconsolable child in Walmart that didn't get its way, that's now rolling around screaming. And what I like to tell people is like, or something that I'm trying to do for myself today is like, I don't have to obey that. I can hear you. Okay, so you're uncomfortable right now and you want something. I can hear you. However, I don't have to obey you today. I don't have to obey you, because so many of the times I'd get stuck in those tapes and then I didn't know any way out. Now, this is at the height of my addiction. And I mean, even in recovery, it got time to where like the only way out I thought was going back to these old behaviors, right? Obeying that inconsolable toddler and say, okay, I don't know how else to get through this. So,
Absolutely.
all right, we're going to do this.
Absolutely. I have a lot of Tracyisms. So I
Yeah.
speak in metaphors as I say this. And I know you've heard me allude to this in the workshops that I do. But I wrote a second book with Dr. Chris Chenoweth called My Walk Through Hell. And in the chapters, I kind of write a tool after each chapter that he talks about his addiction. And then I write about a tool. And one of them is the main character, right? And we hold the microphone. It is ours to hold, and we advocate for the whole. But behind us are all our parts and pieces, our inner child, our inner toddler, addiction, anger, joy, laziness, ADHD, all of these pieces and parts are behind us. We have so many, and it looks different for each of us. But we hold the mic because each of them behind us, they will only advocate for that. So anger only advocates for anger, and then it comes out as rage, addiction, alcohol, drugs. It only advocates for that one. That's it. Fear, anxiety, they only advocate for that emotion. Our job is to talk to them. Like you said, our job is to say, what are you saying? I understand that. Absolutely. I get it. You're angry. Or I get it. You're insecure. I got this. And our job is to hang on really tightly to that microphone and to say, I will advocate for the whole because I know what's best. Doesn't mean we don't feel these things. We should. They're a part of who we are. Honor them. But stop, speak to them, but hold the microphone. A lot of times we pass the mic off. We get that, forget it, I'm done. The fuck it's, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And we pass it off and just sit down and let them go. And when one of them gets a hold of the mic, they are not relinquishing very easily. So we have to hold that mic, but talk to each of them. Talk to that inner child, talk to the inner toddler. I understand you're frustrated. I got this. That's kind of what we do with our past child too. I got this. And that's kind of the idea. When there's addiction, addict, whichever feature that is, becomes the main character. And now we have that as the main character in our relationships, in our friendships. It's now addiction, not us. We've sat down and passed it off. And it's so important. They're going to talk to us the rest of our lives.
Yep.
The rest of our lives. Talk to it. Don't be afraid, or it's going to be like that 3-year-old, mom, you're going to punch a baby in a minute if this goes on. So it's this of what you want. And usually it's just, look at me, and they jump.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that's great. And then they're happy. Acknowledge all of our parts and pieces. Yeah. It's so important.
Absolutely.
But we don't have to give in to them. We just have to talk to them. They're not that scary. They're a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's empowering, but hang on to the mic.
Yeah.
Don't give it to them.
Yeah. And I think that was a really good way of breaking it all down. And I really, again, like, you got my mind turning here. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, what can I add into my end? Because it's like, there's a need. I believe that behind every addiction, behind every emotion, there's a need, right? There's a need that's not being met. And these different parts of us, they don't know what that actual need is. Now, I will share that, like, sometimes as the adult self, as the Alex, the grown up in recovery, right? Sometimes I struggle with, like, okay, what's the need here? And how do I get that need met? Because it's still it's still a little blurry sometimes.
Oh, sure.
As far as like what that need is. And like, I do a much better job of sitting with it, right? And being like, okay, the answer will come. I don't have to figure it out right now, but it definitely can be frustrating, like trying to figure out that need on top of all these other parts kind of chirping in, saying what they think that need is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes it's just, okay, well, what do I need right now? Maybe not the big picture. What do I need? But what do I need now? And it's just honoring that and honoring that. So
Hmm.
sometimes it's just, do I need anything right now? No, I don't. I'm okay right now. I'm safe. Sometimes it's truly, no, I'm good. Just stay right where you're at. Other times it's these small movements of what I need right now. I need a conversation with somebody
Yeah.
to feel more at peace, or I need to connect, or whatever that may be. I need quiet. I need to go for a walk. I need to get out of my head. Sometimes it's just that thing right in front of us. What do I need? And that's before you know it, you've just answered 10 different things that you need. And it gets you to the bigger, what do I need?
Yeah. 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 Like keeping it simple. Keep it
Yes.
simple.
We are simple creatures.
And I overcomplicate it.
We always do.
Right. Like,
We always do. We always do. I mean, God knew what he was working with when he created us. He's like, I'm going to keep it so basic. You can't mess it up. And then we show up and we're like, no, we're smarter than that. He's like,
I think I got better ideas
I've got
than
a better
this.
idea than you,
You know,
God.
I need this big old grand thing, right? Like I'm hungry, so I need a grand feast in front of me,
Yes.
and it's like
Handful of peanuts.
just
Good to go.
100%, right? Or maybe a glass of water, like, it doesn't have to be this big old barbecue extravagant,
Yes. Enough is as good as a feast. That's a quote from Mary Poppins. Enough is as good as a feast.
Okay.
And
That's good.
Go by it all the time. Enough is as good as a feast.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. So in working with some of the families, because I think that one of the things, so yes, this podcast is about addiction and being in recovery, but oftentimes the families kind of get left out a little bit with all of the resources, right? Because if I'm an addict and I'm relapsing and I'm struggling, boom, go check into treatment. Here, go to these 12-step meetings, right? Go get a therapist. So what have you found like really helps with the families in dealing with them? Because they deserve the help too.
Yeah, they have a special place in my heart. I was married to an addict for 25 years, and he went into treatment for 3.5 months, and it was always, how's he doing? How is he? Don't stress him out. We were afraid he was a pharmacist. We don't want him to lose his job. And you need to speak with the manager, and you need to this, and you need to that. And it was always about him. So even with him gone, he was the main character. Alcohol was still the main character. I had 2 little girls at home, and my focus was protecting him, hiding it, the shame, all of this that of course he felt and of course I felt, but it was always about him. Rarely did someone say, how are you doing? And really mean it. Like, how are you? What are you doing to get by? How can I help you? It was always about him. And when he came home, unfortunately, he did not go to AA. He did not have a community of people around him. So the pattern continued for him. But what I witness, a lot of people that really do the steps and are doing wonderfully, they have such a community around them. And we don't. I tried Al-Anon. That wasn't a great fit for me, though I know it's amazing. It wasn't quite what I needed. I think I just needed real people and real conversation, because you feel shame for how you feel. You're mad. You feel betrayed. You feel like your life is in their hands. They mess up and you all go down. And that's a really scary feeling. You get this feeling of, when do I get to mess up? We don't feel we ever get that right because we have to hold everything together. So I started working with a lot of people who had addicts in their family. And that's where kind of I started. And it helped me learn how to work with addicts, right? And that is my area of specialty, addicts and families of addicts. And it's really letting them be heard. I'll always say, just because you're not saying it doesn't mean it isn't so. And I could see them holding back on what they want to say. And I'll say, just because you're not saying it doesn't mean it isn't true. Say it, let it go. People want to be heard, and addicts go away or have their sponsors, and they spend so much time being heard, explaining how they feel, why they feel this way, going through this. And those that are married to or parents of, we feel really silent. We're afraid they're going to relapse, so we don't want to tell them how we really feel. We're afraid we can't. Usually anger is a part of addiction. We don't want them mad at us again. We don't want to step into that realm again and trigger that again. There's a fear that we have. And so we kind of get quiet. So it's a place to be heard. And with coaching, I just want to make sure they're heard. And how can we utilize how you're feeling and advocate differently? I didn't advocate appropriately. And that's kind of why I started this journey, was to learn how to do a better job. Not that it was my fault. That took me a long time to say that, but that I certainly could have done it better. And I could have responded differently. I tried so many different tactics. The ownership lies on him. But I probably should have left long ago, but just kept hoping and praying because I wasn't heard. And I had a lot of shame with mine as well, hiding it. The perfect family wasn't so perfect. And when people found out, because it was hidden so well, it was kind of a blow.
Yeah. And the way you just described all of that, like, really gives me a lot of empathy for the families. Because, like, 100%, like, I remember sitting in treatment. Hey, guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head-on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope. And realizing that one of the therapists said, Alex, like, your need is to be heard, and then I went and started a podcast, and there's some irony there, right? And it's kind of in like, wow, like, yeah, that's something that I can like totally relate to. And that, like, it's sad that, again, because you're right, that's my recovery, is I got to share everything.
Yes.
I have to share everything. And, I haven't done my recovery journey with a partner, right? So there wasn't that, I don't know how to say this. There wasn't, it wasn't like anybody was there in the silence, afraid to say how they felt to me. But it's just, it is so important.
It is. There's a lot that you share. We share a lot with addicts when it's our loved ones. We share similar feelings. We share the, I don't feel heard. We share the shame. We share the burden in a different capacity. And the questioning of self and what is tomorrow going to look like? Can I do this forever? We share really similar feelings. And it's kind of amazing that if we would get in a room and be able to share it, it's different. Addicts are very defensive, right? With the 4 horsemen, right? There's blaming, defensive, stonewalling, and contempt, right? Give me a minute with an addict and I'll tell you exactly where they're going to be. And defensive and blaming is usually where they tend to go. Those of us that we're married to or have them in our family, we tend to be contempt and stonewalling, right? We shut them out. We in our head, if we're saying horrible things just because we're so mad, if we're afraid, we're thinking them. Yeah. And we're putting on this fake smile because we're afraid to say how we really feel.
Yeah.
But in a safe environment, it's difficult to start that dialogue again because defenders are defenders. I mean, think of them as in a ring, right? And they have their gloves up and they're dodging and they're punching and they're jabbing, and because they want you to back up. And it works. We back up. But in a conversation where they can learn, okay, I can take off my gloves. I can try this again and have a conversation. It's learning to communicate again without defending the addict. You don't have to. You took the mic back. You sent them back, and now you hold the mic and you say, yeah, absolutely right. That's what was going on. But now here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
There can be a better dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because like we see this similarly here, right? I like to call them like spiritual traps, right? I'll ask somebody how they're doing, or that I know they're going through something, and they're like, "Oh, I'm good," and I've done this too. I'm good. What I would do is, this too shall pass. I'll figure this out. And it's like, hold on a second, take that mask off. Tell me how you really feel. Tell me sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, this fucking sucks. This sucks. And so how do you approach people when you're seeing that in them? Because I can only imagine, right? Because it sounds like whether you're an addict or a family member, you're throwing these masks on.
Oh, all the time.
Just because I'm an addict doesn't mean I'm the only one that has family members, loved ones, they got a masks too.
Absolutely.
So how do you kind of get somebody to like really just take that mask off?
Well, again, just because you're not saying it doesn't mean it doesn't. So I don't care what bullshit you're selling me. It's still not the truth, and you know what's happening, right? So honestly, I just create such a space of this is not judgment. This is reality. This is where you're at. If you can't speak your truth, how do you live one? And I'll say to people, what do you want? What's your dream? I don't know. Well, if you don't know your own dreams, how do you know when you achieved them? How do you know when you're there? So it kind of starts with just the basics of, you want to be heard. What are you saying? If you're just spouting bullshit, then that will be your existence. So when you're ready to live that life, put it in existence. What is your truth? Where are you at? And I think it's interesting. Vulnerability is a very difficult thing for me. It is I wasn't really raised, I had a wonderful childhood, but I wasn't raised in a real vulnerable house, right? Because I was raised with very strong males, right? 2 older brothers, my dad, very strong men. I'm more of a dude, let's be honest. It's very apparent. So it was just, we were all great. How you doing? Fantastic. That was a common saying in my house. Phenomenal. Always being said. But even if you weren't, it was a weakness if you didn't speak up. And I learned the courage and vulnerability, and my clients that can be courageous. I'm in awe of it. And I'll say all the time, I'm humbled that you can share and you can be open, because I am not the most when it comes to, I can share my wisdom, but when it comes to how are you and really drill down, it's really tricky for me. And I've worked really hard at it. I've coached the shit out of myself to try to get there. But I find that when people really hear the fact that this is your reality, if you can't speak it, you can't even live it. And they'll start to just kind of a little whisper of, well, it's not so great. I'm like, wow, thank you for sharing. That's amazing. And they slowly start to really let you know. And then the idea is to not get stuck there and visit Victimville, right? But to move. And what can we do with that information? That's a lot of what I ask is, what can we do with this information? What would you like to do with it? And then we move. It doesn't change realities. What I do is it's a perspective shift. You hear me say it all the time. It's a perspective shift. Their truth is what they're seeing, but let's look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, I think that purpose can be involved in that. Mm-hmm. Like finding one's purpose. Like I know that I'm really big on that. Mm-hmm. And I heard this in a movie once that said, like, if we feel like we have purpose as human beings, we live longer. And I think we live a little bit more fulfilled and happy. Sure. And so like trying to find one's purpose, even if it is just for today. And I think we've done a workshop on that where you were like, hey, write down what your purpose is today, right? And if I can write down what my purpose is today, then I can start breaking down steps of, okay, how do I live in that purpose today? You know, if my purpose today is to help somebody, okay, well, first off, I got to go ask somebody how they're doing, right? I got to go see, is there somebody in need here? Let me look around my community. Is there somebody in need? Where can I go be of service? And okay, I lived in my purpose today.
Absolutely. And it's ever changing.
Always.
The overreaching purpose is truly to be the best version of you so you can be the best version for others. That's it. People are, I was trying to make these grandiose, this is my purpose. But that's truly it, is to be the most fulfilled version of you. And that's ever changing. My strengths, we've done a workshop on strengths, but they are always evolving. Even though I was resilient as a kid, my resilience looks really different now. It looked different 10 years ago. It's always evolving and changing. And things can only evolve and change through wisdom, through knowledge, and then applying. And yes, we have to constantly be moving that needle and looking for our purpose. And it'll look so different day by day. I like to look at things in kind of 5-year increments, right? And because 5 years is amazing. We all know time goes by like this, right? When you're in it, sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but then you look back and go, oh my gosh. But the growth that we do every 5 years never change. So 0, birth to age 5. Oh my God, can't even hold up your head, right? Can't do anything. 5, you're going off to kindergarten, and that's extraordinary. Look at the growth in those 5 years. It's crazy. And you think, wow, I've got a kindergartner. Now you got a 5-year-old, right? And 10. Totally different. You've got like a 3rd grader versus going into kindergarten. And you can't believe the growth. It's extraordinary. Wow, I have a 10-year-old, double digits, then 10 to 15. Oh my gosh, they have their permit. The growth in those 5 years, it's astronomical.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. 15 to 20. Come on. I got a 20-year-old, right? Who's legally driving and almost in bars and what have you. But then 20 to 25, each 5-year increment is so amazing. And so I never want to look too far out, but I'm always aware. And I want every day to wake up and say, I hope I was better today than I was yesterday. And that's just my purpose, is to just be better. What does that mean? It depends on my perspective that day. Sometimes it was just better friend. Sometimes it was just better to me, be kinder to me. That's my purpose. Yeah. And then you have grander purposes, right? But that's just it. Reach out to people I hadn't talked to, reach out to my parents, whatever this looks like. That was my purpose today. So I always make sure I start it with that. And then I do a check-in at night.
Okay.
And how did I do?
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes not great. Okay. Then tomorrow I need to tweak that a little bit.
Yeah. It's 10th stepping, right? Taking that inventory at the end of the day, saying, okay, hey, this was my goal going into the day. How did even if you don't have a goal, right? I like to look at, okay, hey, where were the areas that I could tighten up without shame though, right? That's the big piece there, is like without shame and guilt. Cause I'm super quick to get into that mode of like, wow, Alex, you said you were going to do this, this, and this today. You didn't do those things. And I'll immediately pull out the whip. Right. And so it's like, okay, hey, well, let me tighten these. Maybe I'll do them tomorrow. We'll move them to tomorrow. So what would you say? Because I could see myself doing this, right? If I came in to a session with you and we're talking about these 5-year increments, and I go, Traci, one day at a time, I just got to think about today. I don't got time to think five years down the road. And as I know that I really struggle with this, right? Because one day at a time, it's a big slogan of the program. Absolutely. And I'm going, well, one day at a time. Well, how am I supposed to plan for the weekend? I'm just supposed to wait. People are hitting me up and I'm telling them, one day at a time, man. I'll let you know when we get there.
Right.
That's a little extreme. I didn't go that far. But I know I really struggled with living in today. Obviously we don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. But, what would you say to someone that's like, I don't know how to plan for that if I'm just trying to live in today?
Yeah, it's a great question, because that is the mantra, right? Day by day, don't look at forever. Well, yeah and no, right? I'm not going to start smoking, right? And today at 55, and and not look to my future of what can happen, right? So we have to take inventory, and taking inventory is about being the better version of you that day. That's our day to day. But we also have an outreach, right? And I look at it more of when people really, because a lot of addicts, of course, are like, well, day by day. And it is true. But I look at it more as how exciting it is that in 5 years, how the growth, the amazement. So it goes both ways. Look at you 5 years ago and look where you're at now. How amazing. I mean, every day you want to be just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right. So it's more of the excitement of what you can be in 5 years. I don't put a lot of time into it, but when people are getting so anxious about look at this growth, I wanted to be better. I wanted to be here. I wanted to be there. I didn't want to relapse. I say, okay, well, the infant that couldn't lift its head and now it's going to kindergarten, right? Day 2 of that baby still couldn't lift its head. Day 3, day 4, right? It's a slow process, but before you know it, the growth is amazing. And all it is working little by little, that little core of that little baby. It's pretty sad. It's just that day by day, you don't realize it's happening. That's why we take inventory every day. But when you look back, it's amazing of the growth that we've done. I get more excited about where I'll be in 5 years instead of what do I need to accomplish in 5 years. I know my goals. I set goals. That's just the nature of who I am. But it's the inventory of every day and the excitement of what I can accomplish. So it's a balance. You have to have a balance of it.
100%.
Everything has, you can't live in just
100%.
a moment or you won't get one bill paid, but you also won't have vacations planned, right? You won't have anything. You have to have the courage enough to know that I'm taking care of today because I can plan for tomorrow.
Yeah.
You have to trust in that person that's living this day, that they're going to be there for you when you make your plans for the future. Plus, it's exciting.
Yeah. You got me excited for the next 5 years. Like, I love the way that you broke that down, right? It's not about what I want to accomplish, but there's a lot that can happen in that 5 years. And you brought up something there so like early on, right? No matter where you're at in your journey, whether you're a family member or an addict in recovery, very early on, we want those measurable. I want to be able to pull out my measuring stick and say, okay, cool. I grew, I want to put my back up against the door frame and say, all right, I grew 1 inch today. Awesome, right? Now, early on in recovery or early on in whatever journey it is, if you're a family member, the growth it's very hard to see at first. Like, I can look back now on my recovery and say, oh, wow, I've come a long way and I'm completely different. And okay, so now I've really got some really areas of measurable growth. But in the beginning, so hard to see those. What's one way that we can kind of flush that out and really see, okay, hey, things are changing, even if it's not as fast as I want it to, or,
Yeah. Are you proud of that person today? Right. And if the answer is yes, there's growth, right? Especially with addiction. No addict that I've so far, I'm 100% on this one, but there might be, one. No addict went to bed at night and went, wow, an active addict, and said, wow, I'm proud of myself today, right? Each one went, tomorrow will be a better day. You know what? Tomorrow I'm going to ... Tomorrow it's going to look different. And it didn't. So if you can say, wow, I am proud of myself today, that is growth. Right there is growth. And each time there's more time in between, right? Today's day 7, today's day 77, today's 177. Whatever that measure is, I'm really proud of myself today. I showed up for me today. So it's really just a matter of remembering where you were at and were you proud of yourself that day? And that's how you can measure it. That's growth, because that is not what you did in full-on addiction. No one ever woke up and went, wow, I'm really proud of my yesterday. I can't wait to repeat that, It's always that hanging on by a thread, that bargaining, that shame, that lie, manipulate, lie, all of that so encompassing. And when you're not doing that, you showed up for you that day. That's all we can do.
That's really simple. And I just love how you broke that down. Like, that's so simple and it's so true. It's so true. can I just be proud of the fact that I made it through today
Yeah,
without going back to some old behaviors?
absolutely. And if one day happened to be a really tempting day where you just could not stop thinking about your addiction and the want of that, and you still resisted it, wow, I am really proud of myself. It always looks a little different. The next day, maybe it popped into your mind half the time. Wow, I'm really proud of myself today. Each one is a win. It's a W.
100%. I remember, man, early on in recovery, just like making it through these days and being like, God, I'm going to need a miracle to get through today. So you better send me something now, right? And I was expecting a burning bush, a neon billboard, or God to come down from the heavens and say, come here, Alex, give me a hug, right? And then I remember just like crying. God, I need a miracle. God, I need a miracle. And then ending up in my bed sober at the end of the day. And being able to be like, so this was the miracle. The
Can
miracle
you
was
imagine
I'm
a
in
better
bed
one?
sober. No.
Yeah. He could have shown up and said, "Hey, how you doing, Alex?" and then leave, and you're still left with those urges. And I would rather not have that miracle. I'd rather have the miracle if I made it. And he was there going, "I'm here."
Yeah.
That was the embrace he was giving you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And being like, okay, all right, let's get through tomorrow, right? We got through today. Let's get through tomorrow. Yeah.
It's just in the perspective.
100%. I've had, I was talking to a client recently and like, the perspective was he doesn't believe he's worth it. And it's like, man, I can empathize with that. I've been there. There's still days where I wake up that I don't feel worthy. 100%. Now, don't get me wrong. There's days that I wake up and I'm like, this is awesome. My life is great. My life is full. But there's still days. And so I'm like, man, we got to change that perspective around, right? We got to change that perspective, right? You have this old tape inside of you that says you're not worth anything. So therefore, because he was like, Alex, I was having fun. I want to be a piece of shit. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. Let's dig at that a little bit. You don't feel like you're worth it. So you think that you only deserve this lifestyle. So now we got to change that perspective around that, which can be hard to break, though.
Absolutely. So I have a theory. It's Tracy.
All right.
But I'm pretty sure when we all go to heaven and talk to God, he's going to be like, Tracy nailed it. She really figured it out. So remember this. I believe with all of my heart, before we come down here, we're shown this life, this soul, this spirit. And God says, who wants this life? Right? We get to see the whole life. And we're like, I got this. I'm the best Tracy for this job. I'm the best Alex. And I see the whole journey. I see the whole life, the struggles, the triumphs, every bit of it. And I say, yeah, that's me. And he's like, you know what? I agree. Alex, I agree. That is the best you. You're the best one for it. You won the role, right? You got the job. But what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you these strengths, these gifts, and they're going to help you. And they're going to look different. Resilience will look different than my resilience. They'll fit you perfectly. And I'm also going to put amazing people in your life. And I promise to. And they'll help you along the way. But you'll also be in other people's lives. It goes both ways. And you'll be there for them. And you signed your contract, but you knew your life. So when people come to me feeling that, instead of, oh, no, you are worth it, I look at it more as an obligation. You signed to that contract. You're out of contract right now. You promised to be the best version. You fought for this job. You saw this life. You saw what this was going to look like. And you said, I've got this, which means you do. He wouldn't have given it to you if you didn't. You saw that you would be tripping and falling and struggling. And here you are. Get back in contract, right? So I look at it as more of an obligation. You got this job. You got to be you. Each one of us, like it's the only soul that we were supposed to be attached to. But part of that comes with showing up, doing your best. And when you don't do your best, getting back on and doing it, because there's people that are going to be put in our path, and he'll keep putting them there if we miss them. But there's people we're supposed to be in their paths as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not in contract, like we promised we would be, with all these gifts and wonderful things that he sends us, we miss them. And it's our obligation. It kind of takes out that, aren't I awesome? And it puts it into, this is my responsibility. So if I don't think I'm worthy, God gave me this job. I fought for this job. So I need to step up and kind of.
Yeah. And I think that helps bring the focus back to the spiritual aspect. Because I'm a big believer that recovery is a spiritual program of action, right? I got to get out of my way, which means I need to let God take over. Get out of my way. I need to not be I-centered. I need to be God-centered. So I like that kind of helps me get back into that God-centeredness of like, okay, God, yeah, you gave me the job. You gave me the tools.
Absolutely.
I'm following this.
And when it gets overwhelming, it helps me because I think, wait, I saw this part of my life already and I already conquered it. So I know I can do it. Like I saw it and I went, yeah, I got this. I am pretty badass. I got this.
That perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it helps me have a little courage of I've witnessed this part of my life. I made it through. I triumphed.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah. So what are some, without digging like too much into like your curriculum and how you do with your client, what are some like simple, pretty basic tools for anybody out there that are like, hey, I want to shift in perspective. I just don't know where to even start, where to begin.
Yeah. I like to start with, what are your strengths? I can't tell you how many people will come to me and I'll say, what are your strengths? And they pause. I'm not sure. And usually within 30 seconds to a minute, I could tell them some of their strengths. And I'll think, if I'm paying attention and I've talked to you for 30 to 60 seconds, what are you not paying attention to? Maybe you need to pay a little more attention to you for a minute. So I like to start with, what are your strengths? Even just a simple tool of writing down your top 3, and a simple tool of those top 3, where do you see them show up in a day? So what it does is it shifts that brain, those neurons, start firing and paying attention to where my gifts show up. And so I'll have people make a little list every day, and bring it in. And then we go over where their strength shows up. And then always then my question is, how have you used these strengths for yourself? And then there's usually a dead silence because they realize they're using it for others first instead of self first. And again, people think, well, I can't be selfish. I don't like the word selfish, but we have to be fulfilled and be the best version of us that we can to be the best version of others. That was our promise. And you can't be if you show up not in good form. So then I challenge them, now this week, I want you to kind of look and see where you use those strengths for yourself. And usually that's a great place to start kind of honing in. That's when you start paying attention to you and how you show up. You start paying attention to the gifts that you have and these amazing qualities that you have. And you start using and trying to use these strengths in different ways and better ways. So that's kind of a simple, easy tool that shifts a perspective.
100%. And I think I do something similar for myself. I call it my personal belief inventory. What do I believe positively about? So in recovery, I kind of tying this all together here is like, yes, I need to look at my past. And yes, I need to acknowledge and take responsibility for the things that I've done, the people that I've hurt, the relationships that I've wrecked, myself included, right? The hurt that I've caused myself. However, recovery is also about looking at, what do I bring to the table? What are the good things that I bring to the table? Whether I believe them or not, they're in there, and I can see some of them. And so I try to tell people, hey, write down. Like, it's almost like a gratitude list, but for the internal. Gratitude list to me is the external. The inventory, the positive belief is the internal.
Yeah, where am I in contract?
What am I?
Absolutely.
I'm a good friend, right? I remember I had to do that when I started dating. Why would I be a good partner? Why am I a good partner? Because it's like I didn't have this belief in myself. I had been in recovery for 3 years and had started to kind of like myself, but still being terrified of getting into a relationship. Being a sex addict, it's really easy to bring hurt, in all addiction, right? But, there's those patterns there of me betraying people. And so like I really had to like do some work around like, hey, Alex, give me 10 reasons, 15 reasons on why I'm a good partner. And it was actually, at first it was a little difficult, but then you start to see more and it's like, okay, this is actually easier. All right. Wow. I'm actually starting to believe these things. I see these things inside of myself. So it was really cool to like do that exercise for myself.
Absolutely. What you put out is what you get back, right? Every religion teaches it. Every belief system between karma, treat others the way you want to be treated, even eye for an eye, right? That even, you get it back. It's the same belief. What do I bring to the table? And taking that inventory and then checking in, and what did I bring in today? What new do I bring in? And that's always a nice forward movement, right?
Yeah.
Of what new am I bringing in to this? What's a new one I can add today? And then you start thinking, oh, that's a different mojo that I got
Yeah.
going on here. And then you start believing that and you add to your inventory.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Traci, is someone, I love asking this question. So, is somebody who works in the field of working with other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meeting other people when sometimes they're at their lowest spots, right? Can be very draining on us. What does Traci do for Traci to help kind of fill your cup back up? Again, I always like asking this question with people that are in the people helping industry.
That's an interesting and loaded question for me. It is. I was a runner and I was running. I ran marathons, right?
Wow.
So because the worse it was at home, that was my escape. So I ran. And then the longer you're gone, right, the less you have to deal with it. So suddenly I'm running marathons, right? So I used to run, still do a little bit, but not to that capacity in probably 3 or 4 years. Now what I do is I'm a very present person. I'm a very in the present. I don't look far ahead and I don't live in the past at all. So I am a very present person and I'm very grateful. Gratitude is probably my big one. So I make sure that I every single day sit in a space of gratitude. And I mean very intentionally. My walks that I'll take now, if I go on a quick 4 mile walk or something with some runs in there.
Quick 4 mile. That's fun.
Well, it's a walk, A runner, it's hard for us to change.
Uh-huh.
I make sure that most of the time is coming up with like 20 different things that I am just so grateful for. Prayer, rosary for me, right? If I go on a walk, I'll pray the rosary or at least a decade. I spend a lot of time in quiet.
Okay, so we had some technical difficulties there, but we got through it and we're back. So what, I was asking you about, what do you do for yourself? What are ways that you can kind of take care of yourself? And then you asked me the same question.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
exercise,
Mm-hmm.
prayer, talking to, like I need to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times just like solitude for me.
Yes.
Solitude is something that like I really need.
Oh, absolutely. That I find that more rejuvenating than being around a lot of people.
100%.
Yeah, it can be draining and I can be on, but when I'm off, I'm off.
That word right there, on, being
Mm-hmm.
on, because I feel like there's so much of my life that I have to be on, and
Yes.
it's not, because when I come into the treatment center, it's like I kind of got to be on, not in an inauthentic type of way, because it really is me. This is me.
Yeah.
I'm big, I'm jovial, I'm but yeah, being on.
Yeah.
And then and I've really had to kind of like look at that in so I'm my partner, we've been together for 8 months now. And it's like, it's great. It's the best relationship I've ever been in. But like, I've found that like, I feel like I got to be on for the relationship. I'll leave work here, spending all day being on. And now I got to go be on, when there's times where I'm like, I don't want to be on right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to sit here and I just want to
Be.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's finding that. And I think that's a journey for everybody. And I think that evolves. I was always, on when I was younger and, all the friends and all the stuff and things. As time went on, that shifted drastically for me. And we have to understand how to be on by not being on stage. So I like
Mm.
to be on by being my authentic self. And my authentic self is sometimes quieter. My authentic self is sometimes just being and being quiet. And that's me being on. I'm just not going to be on stage. And my husband, my children, they all know this very much, which is great. But I also had to advocate for myself and let them know I'm tapping out. I just need to be. But that's me. That's my authentic, true me. And sometimes when I'm feeling it and we're out and about and doing my things and I'm always on, I can sustain that. but it is also being very authentically you. I just had to shift that perspective of being on versus being off. And instead, it's being on and pushing my limits a little bit to being my quieter, authentic self. I'm many parts and pieces, and they're all back here. And I have to talk to each one of them.
I I I really like how you said that. That makes a lot of sense for me because I feel like I can really relate to that because yes, I can have this on stage and then on not on stage.
Yeah, because that's really me.
Yep.
I wasn't given the lines, but now I'm going to do it in a more private, quieter setting for me.
Yes.
That kind of refuels my spirit.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Solitude for me is just doing some of the things sometimes like at the end of the night, like I love putting my phone on do not disturb and watching whatever crime docu-series, trash TV, whatever it is for the last 45 minutes to an hour of my day before it's like, okay, now it's bedtime.
Yeah.
Like that is
Absolutely.
really important for me. That is like something that I really need. I say my prayers, I get in bed. All right, this is Alex time.
And it's amazing that we discover these things as we get older, as we learn. That means we're listening to self. Before we weren't. We were just going and going. But now you're really living intentionally with, wait, this works for me. Even with some clients, we'll say, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. Well, what usually works? Go back to it. And you're figuring it out. I'm figuring it out all the time.
Yeah.
But it's being really intentional.
There is definitely something to be said about just like getting older and like becoming more wiser and that's what I see this quite a bit with like the younger clients that we get.
Sure.
It's almost like, hey, it's awesome that you're here. I just don't know if you're really ready.
Yeah.
So much of my I didn't get sober till I was 32. And it's like so much of my 20s was like exploring. I thought this was still a good time. I wasn't ready. Even if you would have sent me to treatment, even if you would have sat me down and gone through these things, I really don't know that I was ready.
Yeah.
So I will say, like, getting older, it's like, oh yeah, I'm really starting to see life in a different light, a different perspective on life.
Yeah. Well, knowledge is one thing. Applying the knowledge is wisdom. So I've met many knowledgeable people, but I have not met a lot of wise people. There's a difference. There's a lot of people that have knowledge, but applicable knowledge is wisdom.
Yeah.
And there has to be pauses for that wisdom to catch up. Or we're just spewing our knowledge. So I think that whenever we say, oh, there's a old soul, what they just mean is that they've applied their knowledge. And I really love wise people. They tend to be quieter, which is interesting. I think they're judging us.
Yeah.
But they're quieter. And it's a very cool thing to be around. I love being around smart people, knowledgeable people, but wise people. They're the ones that I really kind of lean into and learn from.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Awesome. Well, Traci, thank you so much for taking some time out and coming on the show. And is there anything that you want to plug?
Nothing.
Okay.
No,
That's okay.
Reach out to me if anyone needs anything. It's TDM Life Coaching, and you can get your number from IRC. I'm Illinois here.
Do you have an email?
I do. It's Coach Traci with an I, TRACIM @gmail. Coach Traci M @gmail, and I do workshops here at IRC, and they've been amazing. So if anyone needs anything, needs help, please feel free to reach out.
Yep, and I'll put your email in the information and down in the description. So,
okay, perfect.
Definitely go and check that out. So Traci, yeah, thank you so much. I got a lot of like, this is like, it's cool because like one, I think that this is a good resource for people, right? So hey, if you got a good resource, it's cool, but like selfishly, like I got to pull some things away from this that like
Good.
I'm really excited about. So, and that's just like so cool that I have this platform that I can do this. Like I'm really grateful,
This was amazing.
you
Thank you
know?
for having me
Yeah, you know,
in your little corner.
you did great. So again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Um, and as always, guys, keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. We'll see you guys next time. All right.